adequately explained only by the material, but that there's something spiritual going on in me that wants to love and be loved, that's driven by that really wants to see justice done, and so forth.
And that's fair, but would you say that it's only true for humans, or would you say it's true for most animals? Like a dog or a cat?
No, I think humans are at a whole nother level. I mean, and like I said, to compare the two, it's like, it's like comparing the space shuttle to, I don't know, a paperclip.
Well, they are both metal.
There you
both
go.
Have metal
there
components.
You
can't make these comparisons.
You can find some similarities, but the distance. You're right. A paperclip and the space shuttle are both metal, and they have some similarity to them. But I think there's kind of a big difference between the two. And I'd say between us and animals, there's a like my friend said. On a good day, a chimp might be able to tell the difference between a red and blue, whereas we're off writing concerts, writing music, writing poems, writing books, learning from others. Look at your textbook.
That could only be true because the things that we do that are impressive might only be impressive to other humans. Like animals might be doing things that are really cool and they think are like really cool, like creating all these great things, but we don't notice it because we're not like we don't have we don't have the same like idea of what's important.
Maybe so. I've got to be drawing this to a close pretty quick.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, what about the Catholic Church? They've officially basically said evolution is the scientific way to go, and I mean, no one's doubting that the Pope is a Christian.
I am.
So, you are.
Yeah. I'm not Catholic. I think the Catholic Church has strayed very, very, very far from what the Bible teaches in a whole number of areas, not just this one. And so I really do not recognize the authority of the Pope. I do not consider him an expert on. I consider him an expert, the leader of the Catholic Church. But again, I think the Catholic Church has strayed dramatically from the teaching of the Bible on some very, very, very important areas. Primarily, how does a person get to heaven? Is it by faith in Jesus Christ alone? Or is salvation by keeping the sacraments and earning a place there by the Mass, by confession, and by baptism, and all these sacraments? I do not believe that's what the Bible teaches. And so, I disagree with the Pope on the evolution issue. Probably more profoundly, I think I disagree with him on salvation and how to get to heaven. Yes, sir.
So I think this is pretty interesting. Why micro but not macro evolution?
Well, because micro is essentially the elimination of genetic material. Macro is the addition of genetic material.
That's not how any biologist I've ever heard talk about this topic would say it.
Well, how would you define it?
So,
how would you define it?
Genetic mutations aren't like.
How do you define micro and macro?
Macro is between species, I think. Like you said, I think like over time you see it. So, but what's different between micro and macro to you? What makes it so? If you believe in micro, it seems like the things that make micro happen, the things that make dogs a bit different from each other, could over time make species different. What's the difference?
Because a dog's a dog, not a cat. I mean, you've got different numbers of chromosomes, you've got different numbers of...
Actually, they share a common ancestor.
Well, that's what you believe. I don't.
No. That's observable.
No, that's what you believe. But that's not been proven. If I were to use a metaphor to define this, when you say why, if one is possible in an observable amount of time, why couldn't the other given enough time? Right? That's the question. And so I'm going to say, just for the sake of, I don't know my directions here, but let's say that's east. That's east, and that's west. So if you observed this. You're a scientist, and you observe. As a good scientist, you realize Tom changed from there to there, 5 steps in about 5 seconds or so. And you could extrapolate out and say, you know, he traveled 5 steps in 5 seconds. I bet he'd go 10 steps in 10 seconds. I bet he'd go 20 steps in 20 seconds. But you might say, boy, Tom's 58 years old now. Wow, he walked here all the way from Los Angeles. Or maybe even I walked here all the way from Hawaii. You say, well, you can't walk from Hawaii because there's an ocean between. And even walking from Los Angeles, there's a desert, there's a Grand Canyon, there's Mississippi River, there's the Rocky Mountains. Obviously, this little going from there to there, that's really easy. Anyone can do it. But to walk away from Los Angeles, or for sure from Hawaii, there's barriers there that aren't present here. And so I would say microevolution, there are no barriers there. A frog is producing a frog, you know, so on. But to jump from, let's say, like a lizard to a frog, or a frog to a lizard, or whatever,
That's not what happened.
you know, that when you have something that is, you've got deserts and mountains and rivers in between.
But that's not how scientists understand evolution.
Yeah, it's a pretty nuanced position to believe a little bit of it, but not the rest.
I've got.
I mean, it's pretty interesting.
What would it?
Well, why?
Well, just answer it. You believe in a little, you believe in short changes, small changes, but then big changes over a bigger time are impossible.
Because we're talking about, you know, you got kingdom, phylum, you got.
Yeah, but I mean, a big dog and a little dog, that's a pretty big difference, I think.
What? Actually, it's not.
In
Actually,
genetics,
it's not
it's a
much
tiny
difference at all.
Yeah.
That's not much
In
difference at all.
genetics is very small, but in phenotype it's pretty big.
That's all we call is breeding. That's even of the same species, a big dog and a little dog.
Yeah, so
There-
that's what you believe in, right? Microevolution, big dog, little dog, microevolution.
Well, I would.
mean,
breeding
that's
breeding
what's up
is
there
not
right there.
evolution.
Well, your sign. Wait. Why does your sign have dogs? Breeds of dogs. So
Well-
is that microevolution, and then your dogs? I mean, that's why I was bringing it up.
Well, actually,
So can all dog kinds?
So is that breeding or microevolution?
I'm probably staying correct on that. I don't think breeding is evolution.
Wait, say that.
I
You
would
do
not
or
think breeding is evolution.
Sure. It's not
Okay.
natural, right? Is that why?
Well, for one, yes.
So what's a good example of microevolution that you like? Maybe dogs are a bad one, but what's one that
You
you like?
know, when people talk about like microevolution, maybe Darwin's finches.
But those
they-
are different species.
Pardon me?
Those are different species. Isn't this supposed to be?
There were different species of finches.
Or maybe.
I read your sign. Yeah.
Well, microevolution can include new species. Yes. I would say what we argue is that living organisms reproduce after their own kind. So now a finch will always produce a finch. You might end up having some with different sized beaks, but there'll always be a finch. Okay? They're not going to produce a blue jay, a robin, or a dinosaur or whatever. You know, they'll always produce a finch. Okay? Likewise, a frog will always produce a frog. But you might have some on this island, some on that island, that maybe don't reproduce with one another, and therefore we'd say there's been speciation occur. All right? But they're still frogs. And so somewhere along the line we would say, you know, you've got species, you got order, you got family.